I honestly wasn't sure if I wanted to put this video on YouTube. Like, I really like being able to show customers that have purchased something from my shop their orders being packed, and so I really like it for that. But I always feel really self-conscious that these packing videos are really boring. I feel like they're really repetitive, and I feel like I'm not sure what the appeal is, even though I do understand because I used to be obsessed with watching packing orders at the beginning of my business journey. And I don't know if that's just me being ungrateful now that because I've packed these orders, watching them back again feels really tedious and boring to me. Not that I'm ungrateful for these orders at all. I just want to be honest in, sharing my experience with these packing order clips. But I did do a poll on my Patreon asking whether or not they wanted these clips with just ASMR, with background music, with a voiceover related to the packing, or just anything in general. And I'm actually kind of surprised with the votes because I didn't think voiceover about anything would be like one of the most popular options. But if I think about it, like my own personal consumption, I really don't mind what the person talks about generally. I mean, if it's a journaling video, then I would like them to talk about journaling, but a lot of the time I just like having someone's voice in the background, and that's really new to me. I mean, this is not what I was meant to be talking about, but here we go, I'm rambling. I never used to watch videos while working, and I feel like my approach to consuming YouTube videos has changed so much in the past year, and I think that's gone hand in hand with the videos that I now make. I used to watch YouTube videos with my full attention. Like, I would sit there and watch the video like it was a movie, and I'm not generally a person that plays movies or TV shows in the background while working because I like to watch it. But yeah, that's completely changed now. I really like having a video playing in the background, especially if there is a voiceover. I do typically prefer videos with talking over silent videos because I feel like when I'm working, I'm not typically looking at the screen, and so I like to listen to it as a podcast, but being able to glance up here and there. Anyway, that was really random, but that's my consumption of media these days. But again, I feel really unsure about these clips, but if I do get feedback that people do enjoy these, they like these with the voiceover and the ASMR in the background, then I will continue doing these because I am happy to oblige. I'm happy to provide you with the content that you want as long as you find it interesting. And so I'm just a little self-conscious because I feel like this is too boring to watch. But I did end up with over 4 hours of footage, which is a lot. And so there are definitely a lot of cuts in this video, otherwise it would be way too long. So this particular shop update was very, very special because it's the first one that I've ever had PET tapes. I was officially launching my notebook collaboration with Tiffany from Faded Chronicle. And so those were two really big products, and I was excited, but honestly, I still felt really self-conscious about the shop update as well because I feel this every single time, and I feel like that needs to be said every single time so that you're aware that that feeling never really goes away of imposter syndrome and feeling like you haven't done enough. Like, you always feel confident leading up to it, and then immediately before the shop update, I always panic and feel really self-conscious that like, oh my god, this is a terrible shop update, nobody's going to like this. And I've done enough now over the past 4 years that I've just gotten used to that feeling, and I've gotten used to just expecting that feeling, but it never really does go away no matter how proud of the products you are. And in a way, I don't like, part of me doesn't mind that feeling too much because I feel like it does keep me humble and grounded. Like, I don't want to let myself, like, let my ego inflate to the point where I'm like, oh, this is the best shop update ever, I'm going to sell out, it's going to be the best. And so maybe it's my way of protecting myself, of being like, oh, it's okay, like I did well and I'm proud of it, but I'm still a little, insecure about it. I don't know if that's really silly. I'm sure it makes sense to a lot of you, but this shop update actually did really well, surprisingly, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all of the orders, and still after the orders, extra terrified because I was like, oh no, people are going to get the orders, they're going to hate it. And it's just this constant negative self-talk cycle. And I feel this every single time, but I want to share this so that you don't feel, I don't know, I'm starting to realize that, I mean, this is so obvious, but I'm starting to realize that what I feel is not always what is obvious to people. And so I have to over communicate and say things multiple times so that you understand that I did get a lot of orders this shop update. What you're seeing, it's a lot of orders, but it's not the normal. And while it may look like, oh wow, she's got so many orders, her business is doing really well, and I'm so grateful for all of the orders. So I got 28 orders in total, including the early access shop update. So I have an early access shop update for patrons the week before, so they can get it a little bit earlier and get their dibs on anything. By the way, I will change topic like 5 times because that's just the way I talk. So I'm going to be like going around in circles trying to find like what I was talking about. But there were 28 orders in total, which is a huge amount for me because there are weeks, months, okay, not months, weeks that I will go without getting a single order. And that's normal. And I think because I've done the work at the very beginning, this is not something that throws me off. Only financially, it can get a little bit stressful, but I never expect orders. I have like trained my ego. I've tamed it to the point where I'm like, oh, I've got an order. That's awesome. So again, it's that weird, like helpful self-sabotage of feeling like, of lowering my expectations so that when I do get an order, I'm extra happy rather than coming from it from an entitled place of like, oh, I only got 2 orders, but I expected like 5 orders. Like I never want to be that person. And so usually with shop updates, I actually get around 7 or 8 orders, and that's mostly from my patrons as well. And so I don't say that lightly. 7 or 8 orders, like big orders, it's so amazing. And I'm so grateful for that. And so that's what I've come to, I mean, I'm contradicting myself, but that's what I've come to kind of expect. If I get just a few orders, then, you know, I consider that a very successful shop update. If I get 0 orders, then maybe that would be a little bit disappointing considering the pattern of, you know, getting a few orders every shop update. But to go from like an average of like 6 or 7 orders or 8 orders to now 28 orders was really overwhelming in a good and bad way because while I'm grateful, I need to emphasize that because I don't want it to be like I'm complaining about the amount of orders, but I do want to be honest that while it looks pretty maybe to pack orders, it's so stressful. It is so stressful for me, and part of that is because I'm not very good at keeping things in stock. Like I tend to stock things when I realize I've run out, which is the most horrible habit, most horrible routine. And so that's something I've been working on over the past few months of just keeping my stock levels up, especially for markets as well, because when you don't have enough products stocked, it slows down the entire packing process. And so that's something that I've been battling often the past few months, and I really despise that about myself and this whole process. So it's still very much a work in progress. But I do want to share that is a reason why packing orders can be very stressful for me. But apart from that, you know, I constantly look at, like, I'm big on optimizing processes in order to make things a little bit more efficient. Like I love doing things more efficiently. And so I've looked at different ways to make my packing process a little bit more efficient. And so what you see me do in these clips is that I don't tie them up with twine or like package them totally. What am I trying to say? Like I haven't finalized the packaging completely in these packing clips because I wanted to try something new. So with the 28 orders, that wasn't all at once because again, the early access shop update, I think I had, I want to say 14, and that was actually way too much for me to pack in a single day. And my patrons will hear me talk about this all the time. Like I mentioned this in my weekly updates, I typically don't like to spend the entire day doing a single thing because for me personally, it doesn't feel productive. And so I like splitting up my days, taking care of like 2 or 3 major things. And so that very much like fits under the the concept of like your 3 priorities for the day. Just for me, like it could be different for you, but for me personally, that's what makes me feel like I've been productive and I've had a good day when I've tackled multiple things, because rarely you're ever really just doing one thing at a time. As a small business owner, you're always juggling multiple things. And so when I feel like I've spent the entire day working on one thing, I feel like I've let everything else fall by the wayside, and I hate that feeling of falling behind. And so I do spend a few hours a day packing the orders, which means I can't actually fit the entire, what I've realized, I can't fit the entire 14 orders, even though I've prepped the orders. So what I like to do, sorry, I'm going back and forth again. I'm just trying to follow the train of my thoughts. I do have a few notes jotted down, but I'm going totally off track because that's just how I like to talk. Like this is what my Dear Diary episodes, honestly, on Patreon are always like. But typically my process for packing orders now, in order to make it a little bit faster, because when I have to film for, like, I film my packing, like, I mean, you're watching it right now. I film my packing, which does slow it down a little bit, but it means I want to make sure I'm as ready as possible to film and pack, because I don't want to, I have to, how do I best explain this? I don't want to be wasting my time filming me doing something that I could have prepared off camera, because that's just wasting camera space, that's wasting my time, and then it's wasting my future time when I have to go back and edit that footage. And so I want to be as prepared as possible. So what I like to do is prep the orders the night before or 2 nights before, where I gather all of the products and I check it off on the list, and I kind of put it all in an envelope. And so when I'm ready to pack the orders, that's kind of like my way of double checking the order as well. So I'm very paranoid in that sense, where I really hate the idea of missing a product, and I've done it before. I definitely have forgotten a product and I've had to ship it afterwards, but I'm always double checking, triple checking products to make sure I haven't forgotten something. And so typically off camera is when I will gather all of the products and put them ready in an envelope for me to pack on camera, especially because I have to typically wait for decent lighting for when I'm packing. It's just all a part of the aesthetic, but I feel like it works for me as well, because it's nice for you to watch, but it's also nice for me to pack. Like, I love packing in the sun as well. Anyway, so what I did differently this time with packing was I packed all the orders, but I didn't finalize them. That's what I'm calling it, that final stage where I tie it up with twine, I put it in the envelope, I put the shipping label and all that on it, and I think it worked. So I kind of did a bit of that off camera, and I felt like that just like freed up a little bit of the burden on me, because then I could just it's the unsexy and the private part, because I'm dealing with people's addresses anyway. And so yeah, that part of the process, the finalizing part, is where I will tie it up with twine. I'll put in what do you call it, like the filler in the box so it doesn't shake around. I will weigh it, I will seal it, and then I'll put it in the satchel and all that. And so that gets really repetitive. That's definitely the less like aesthetic side, but I think I really liked it. I think I liked separating those processes, which meant that I was able to pack more orders within the time frame, because I only have pretty lighting for a certain amount of time, and so I don't want to waste that time. I don't know if that makes sense. I want to get through the main part of the packing, and then I can do the rest later at night when I'm watching a video or something. So I just wanted to explain that in case you're like, but she didn't really pack the order. I kind of just put it on the side, because then I deal with that later so I can get through more orders. For my brain, that really makes sense. So I like batching it in that way. But this shop update was a learning experience for me, because I was not used to packing this many orders, and they were really big orders as well. So again, if you placed an order in this shop update, thank you so much for the support. And I definitely don't expect this again. I feel like this is very much a one-time event because of the PET tapes. And I guess something else that I wanted to talk about, maybe the last thing, because if I don't stop myself, this is going to be just an hour of me talking, but I'm very careful with the way that I approach my shop and the way I guard my creativity. And so even if you don't have a shop, I feel like this still applies if you're like a content creator. And so I think it's really important not to be driven by the numbers. And I'm not saying that it's not important, because obviously I need money to pay the bills and pay my rent, but I feel like I'm emphasizing that I'm not expecting this many orders next time, because I want you to know that that's not how I run my business. I don't expect to get the orders, and I don't expect my main income to come from these orders, and it's just kind of a side bonus. And you will hear this all the time, but it's really important to diversify your income so that you don't feel like you need to like stress yourself out over this. Like if this was my only source of income, then I would absolutely stress out so much getting as many orders as I can. And the reason why I think that's a bad thing, this is kind of merging into an unplanned podcast, but I think it's a bad thing because I think it then affects your creative process. I think it then affects what products you bring into the shop. And I'm very stubborn in the sense that I really only want to create products that I really love and would want to use personally. And that is shooting myself in the foot a little bit, because like, yes, maybe I could sell more if I created this particular product or if I made more Herbie stuff. But for me, it's not about getting as many sales as possible. It's about, I mean, it is, but it's more like getting as many sales as possible in a way that's as authentic to me as possible. And I don't mean that in like oh, I'm just such a good person and I want you to know that. It's more that I think it's really important for you to defend your creativity in that sense, to really guard it so that you're not letting money and these other, I don't want to say insignificant because obviously it's important, but they're more like secondary things. It shouldn't be the reason why you create. It could be a reason why you create. One of the many reasons why you create, obviously money is great and it can help us, live and pay our bills, but it shouldn't be the only reason you create, because I don't think it's sustainable. I think that's the road to burnout if you're only creating things and thinking of whether or not it'll get you sales. And so let me explain in the context of this shop update. So now that this shop update, now that this shop update is done and I can see the products that did well, if I was solely driven by the money rather than where my creativity wants to take me next, then I would be like, oh, PET tape sold really well, washi tape sold really well, and the notebook sold really well, so I should make more of that. That is not the right way to go about it, in my opinion, because I'm not asking myself, okay, what do I want to create next? What do I really want to have in my shop next? What do I really want to work on? And how do I want to expand my brand? And that could lead me to the same answer of more PET tapes and another notebook and more washi tapes. But the reason is different. And I think that distinction is really important, because I think you might not see the danger of it, like the trap of it in the short term, in the immediate moment, but I feel like it's easy to fall into a cycle, a really vicious cycle of creating for people, creating for sales, and then here's the real trap, when you don't get the outcome that you expected, because you went down this path to create for a certain outcome, and then when you don't reach that outcome because you had certain expectations, then you get really disappointed, and then you get really upset, and then you fall into this whole cycle of like, is my stuff not good enough? And I just feel like when you focus on creating for yourself and asking yourself first what you'd like, again, I'm not saying it's not important to look at what people want as well, because people told me that they want more Herbie, and that helped me to feel more confident in creating more Herbie products. Herbie is my bear, by the way. That's the name of my bear. And so it's not always a bad thing to listen to other people. I just want this to be a reminder that you're not only focusing on that as the driving force behind your creativity. There will be many, many reasons why you create. But if you're in this for the long run, if you're in this for the long haul, then it has to come from a deeper, more authentic, sustainable source, which I think, in my opinion, has to be your own desires and your own creativity and what interests you. And I say this because I've been in business for many, many years now. So technically my YouTube and my shop has been around for about 4 years, but I was actually running business before that because I was a photographer. I was doing so much. Like, I've been in business technically since I was 14. I've been like, I've always had this kind of entrepreneurial spirit, and so it's been a long and rough journey for me trying to figure out what I like. And so from experience, I'm telling you that business is not easy, and it's not glamorous, and it's really hard. And the only way to really survive, in my opinion, is to really guard your creativity, is to really guard the source where it comes from, and to really honor it, and to not let your creative process be swayed by what everyone else is doing, what's trendy, what's selling really well. Let all of those things influence your decision for sure, because you don't want to really be creating in a complete bubble where you're ignoring trends that could help you, but it shouldn't be the main driving force. Like, you really need to honor your own voice and what is true to you, because that is what will help you create a sustainable, long-lasting business. And I'm really sorry if you don't have a business and you found that whole rant just completely pointless and irrelevant, but I feel like if you're watching this packing video, then you probably have some sort of interest in business. So, I mean, the earlier I can tell you these things and share my experience, the better, because I am extremely, extremely passionate about running a business the right way, because starting a business is the easy part. This is not what I was planning on talking about, but this is where my brain has taken me. Starting a business is the easy part. It's the most exciting part. But I can guarantee you that maintaining it is the hardest part. Being consistent and showing up every single day or every single week to work on your business when you're not getting sales, when you've run out of that initial burst of motivation or ideas, that's the hardest part. And so I guess I'm saying this to burst your bubble a little bit, in case you're looking at these clips and being like, wow, I want to have this many orders. Like, in the grand scheme of things, 28 is not that many compared to other YouTubers, but in my world, this is an insane amount. And I was so happy, and I was taking so many pictures of the orders because I was just so proud. And I guess that's another way to keep the focus on yourself, to make sure that you're not comparing, because the honest truth is that there's always going to be someone doing better than you. So why are you comparing? There's always going to be someone doing better than you. There's always someone that's better at you than something. And so I find it really pointless to compare. I feel very lucky that I'm not drawn into that comparison trap too much, because I feel like, in a way, I'm very selfish with my creativity, and I'm just really concerned about what I'm doing. I'm only ever really competing with myself, and so that's a bad and good thing, because I don't really compare myself with others, and I see others' journeys as very separate to my own. But it can be a bad thing, because maybe I struggle to take a step back and realize, like, oh, I'm actually doing really well. Like, I'm so focused on what I'm doing in my past achievements that I don't see where I am in, like, where I stand compared to other people. And so I would just say, in general, try as much as you can to not compare yourself, because I feel like it's never really a good thing. Like, compare yourself to the point of admiration and inspiration, but when it starts getting into the negative feelings, that's when you've got to be careful about what you're consuming. So if this video is making you feel really uncomfortable and you don't like it, and it's making you feel more insecure about yourself as maybe a business owner or a content creator, then my advice is to not watch this video. It's okay, you can switch off this video. And I think we need to be careful about what we consume and what we allow into our minds, because it really does affect how we show up. And this is such a ramble. I've gone totally off track. But again, the poll did say people didn't mind if I just talked about anything. And so when you unleash me and just let me talk about anything, I think it'll always come back to self-care and business. That is always like my main values. Like, as much as I love business, I want to do it in a very caring, loving, authentic way. And I'm especially passionate about helping other people do it in that way as well. And so I guess I should wrap this up before I keep talking, but I want you to know that this is all very much a work in progress. It might look like I know what I'm doing, but I'm still always figuring it out and I'm still always changing things. But that's the takeaway, that you can always change things. Nothing is really set in stone, especially when you're starting a business for the first time. It will look completely different a few months, a few years down the road. So don't fret too much and just focus on action and learning and progress rather than things needing to be perfect. Because again, 4 years into my business, technically, with this YouTube and my shop, I do not feel like anything has really been finalized. I feel like I still want to change a lot of things. There's still a lot of things I want to do better, but I see that all as part of the journey because I am in this for the long run. I don't know how long I can do this shop, in the sense that I don't know how long people will want to keep buying my stickers. That's my irrational fear, that one day it's just going to completely stop, and I want to prepare myself for that. But at the same time, I will keep doing this as long as it makes sense to me, as long as people keep buying. And so I don't ever think there will be a point where I'm like, yep, everything is figured out, I've nailed all my processes. I think it's always a constant journey, and I think that's really important to remember. So don't stress yourself out. I mean, this applies in general. Don't stress yourself out if you feel like you haven't reached a certain point that you thought you would, and instead embrace it as an ongoing journey with certain milestones. And just because you haven't reached it yet doesn't mean you're not going to, and just because you reach a certain milestone as well doesn't mean that that's where it ends. There's always going to be more stuff that comes up. And I mean, this is one of my favorite topics ever, which I really shouldn't get into, but it's part of the growth mindset as well, and just understanding that you will always be learning and growing on this journey. And just because you can't do something well now, or it's not turning out the way you want, doesn't mean that you're not going to get there eventually. It's all about putting in the work and making small steps every day. One of my favorite little mantras. And so I'm surprised how much I talked. I'm surprised at myself every time how much I managed to ramble and just talk about nothing. But I do want to say thank you so much for being here, for watching, for listening, and for finding these clips entertaining or maybe inspiring, I hope. I would love your feedback about them. If you want me to do them differently next time, if you want me to split them up, if you want ASMR only, I could do that. I do have that poll over my Patreon, and it's still open if you want to vote, so you can definitely still sway the outcome of that. But again, I'm super grateful for your support in any capacity. You just being here and watching and lurking is so it's overwhelming to me. It means a lot, and I really couldn't do any of this without your support. So I dedicate this video to you and to my patrons and to everyone that supports my shop and makes it possible. That has made my childhood dream of making stickers possible. Like, I didn't even know this was a career path, but I hope you continue to take care of yourself on your journey, whatever your journey may be, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video.
Bye.